Yesterday's State of the Union address, I thought it was scary. This is what he said, the President of the United States, with the Supreme Court sitting in front of him.
It's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
Threatening the Supreme Court like that, I thought was, Andy, outrageous.
Here, the President of the United States, in front of all the justices but 3 of the Supreme Court of the United States, who cannot answer back. They have to sit there mute. They cannot answer. He basically threatened them because of a decision that they wrote, which in my view was a correct decision because the Constitution is devoid of any provision about federal abortion. But intimidating those justices when they could not open their mouths in defense of themselves is about the lowest thing you can do, in my opinion.
I would have been nervous to have been in that room. It didn't feel safe.
It was hostile.
It felt hostile, and not in a UK Parliament kind of let's scream at each other way.
Yeah.
Like it felt like this is a very dark moment for the country, and I hated feeling that way.
He could have said, I disagree with the court's opinion in Roe v. Wade, but with due respect to the justice sitting in front of him, and then he threatens them with, you're about to see what their political power is. Cece?
Which is, again, ridiculous because we don't vote for any justice of the Supreme Court. So I don't know what the threat is, that we're going to vote them out, and I don't know.
Then
we vote
about,
Biden back in and what he'll do to them.
Biden back in.
It's a threat, absolutely. But again, as a woman, he doesn't speak for me.
All right.
I think it's also because he was making statements specifically saying we're going to essentially codify Roe into the Constitution, saying, we're going to go above you.
Yeah, basically, we're going to ignore what you just ruled.
Right.
This is not the first time that these threats have been made against justices of the Supreme Court. Let's go to Chuck Schumer's.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
This is a direct threat again to the Supreme Court, and you think about what then happened to Kavanaugh with the attempt on his life and all the protests that were going on, and this callousness in which the way they do it, Andy.
Well, this is fomenting rage, and this is something that Schumer's good at doing. He's been doing it for years and years and years. He did it then as minority leader when he was not the majority leader. But you call out the justice by name. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, you've released the whirlwind, and you don't know what'll hit you. What you're doing is saying we're going to come after you, and you're not going to know how or where it's going to come from. What a thing to say to a Supreme Court justice who cannot defend himself.
And of course, then they leaked, or somebody leaked, the opinion in Roe versus in Dobbs, which overturned Roe. But so they're doing this, CC, both as a political mean, but also they're trying to intimidate the court.
Well, we've seen him do it before, so I'm not shocked that they're trying it again. And he did it while they were sitting right there, speaking right to them. He basically says, with all due respect, which obviously he has no respect for them because he threatens them during his State of the Union speech, which is despicable.
Not the first president that's done that. Let's listen to what Barack Obama said several years back.
With all due deference to separation of powers, last week the Supreme Court reversed a century of law that I believe will open the floodgates for special interests.
It was a Citizens United case. But you know what, Logan? It's a pattern and practice here of these presidents and Democratic leaders to try to intimidate the court.
Specifically when you haven't had maybe enough of justice turnover to sway your opinion one way or the other as it's become more and more political.
It's this intimidation technique, which the Democrats have been doing at the Supreme Court for about 4 years now. You saw it with Barack, well, more than that, because you got to go back to Barack Obama did it.
2010, yeah.
In 2010. Then you had, of course, Schumer doing it a few years back before the overturn.
Real threats, like you said, to Kavanaugh.
Then you had Kavanaugh actually have a death threat. I mean, actually an assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Guy with a gun at his house. And then they double down on it again. Joe Biden does with the Supreme Court there last night, as if they don't have enough problem as it is. That's what I don't understand. Why would you, if you want to say I disagree with the court's decision in Dobbs, and if you want to give me a decision, you want to give me legislation, I'll do it. But to attack the court like you did with them sitting there.
Well, it got a huge pop from his base. I mean, that's what you saw. I mean, that's what it was all. All it was popping the base, getting them to be excited or somehow motivated. Because right now he knows that he's down. He's down in a lot of these states. He's down in states where, how many people in Michigan, what was the percentage that voted undeclared or undecided? Like a ridiculous percentage. He knows he has to win these people back over. So what's he going to do? Play all the hits, yell at the Supreme Court, threaten everyone while not even acknowledging the own problems that we're having and giving no real sense of hope for a future either. I got to be honest, that was maybe my concern too. I don't want to be lied to and told that everything is rosy.
Because like Logan said, and Logan's our media guy, he was playing to his base on this.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a campaign stop. Don't kid yourself.
Definitely was a campaign speech.
Maybe, like I said, more than ever. More than any more than any State of the Union speech I've heard before, where it just felt like you could have not told me it was the State of the Union, dropped it and said this was a campaign stop, and that's what it was.
What was your take of it overall, the speech?
I think initially Joe Biden was amped up and he attempted to show energy, but then he transitioned into a fair amount of meanness and essentially declared that he was going to remain in an attack mode against the Supreme Court, against Republicans, and against American citizens, for instance, who have genuine concerns for the security of the southern border. Nonetheless, Biden attacked them for not fully supporting a $100 billion Democratic effort to strengthen the Ukrainian border. So one of the things that everyone should note with respect to Joe Biden is that he was inconsistent. In other words, there was no guiding principle. He claimed to support democracy, but nonetheless attacked the Supreme Court, one of the cornerstone institutions in the United States. So overall, I thought it was a missed opportunity and it was a political speech.
Last night left with such a bad taste in, I think, American people's mouth, just this rage and outrage, and not righteous outrage.
No, it was just mean.
Just being like, essentially attacking the
Nasty.
American people. And I really hated it. I can't say it was probably the worst one I've ever heard. I'll probably remember it forever. So maybe he got that across. Actually, I'll remember where I was when I listened to this. And I probably missed 10 minutes of it putting my kids down, as probably a lot of people did. But with that, I still feel like I caught up with what was going on. It was like I missed a whole lot because it was just a slurring rage for 2 hours or an hour and a half. And then to be half an hour late and then to walk 20 minutes to get to the stage, it was a waste of time and a political show. The most campaign speech I've ever heard as a State of the Union speech.
One thing became clear. He's really afraid of Donald Trump because he never called him by name. It was my predecessor. I think he mentioned it 12 or
a lot.
13 times. Yeah. I mean, he really was concerned about that.
Clearly, the note was go out there and scream. And if you do that, you can at least show that you have energy. So he went out there and screamed. And then when he started to run out of energy, it's like he started becoming like a 2-year-old who runs out of energy, doesn't want to admit it, starts screaming more and more and more. The problem was it got more terrifying, more scary as it went on.